Thanks everybody. We're thrilled that we've had this opportunity. Derwin, we sure appreciate this. As everybody may know, we're a part of the Viridian Capital Advisors family. We have been working with Scott and the gang for a number of months here, and we sincerely thank them for giving us this opportunity. We're going to talk a lot about who we are, what we're doing, and the opportunities that we're creating within the cannabis industry for both advertisers, brands, and investors like yourselves. So before we do that, we'd like to kick it off with a little video that tells you a bit about us. So if Derwin, if you could start, we're going to start the video.
What do you desire? What makes you itch? How would you really enjoy spending your life? What do I desire? It's so important to consider this question. That seems to be the thing that really excites people. That somebody's interested in everything, and anything you can be interested in, you'll find others will. So I always ask the question, what do you desire?
Okay, we're back live. So thanks everybody for giving us that opportunity to tell you a little bit about ourselves with a short video. We are located in Venice, California, but based out of St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. We're just shy of a year into operations here at Civilized, and about 18 months into the development of the company. And we are an international brand and media company in the cannabis space, based on the fact that there are countless millions of motivated, productive cannabis users who choose to consume as a healthy part of their lifestyle, as a healthy part of their balanced lifestyle, but are fundamentally unrepresented, or at the very least underrepresented in cannabis culture. The normal culture is really stoner slacker, and you know, I'm somebody who chooses to consume from time to time like somebody would have a beer on the weekend, And I literally became a little bit frustrated with this, and Civilized was born out of that frustration. So we're going to lead you through our investor deck, and I'm going to flip it over to Terri to lead us through that.
Sure, thank you. So as far as what Derek was saying, we are a 360-degree lifestyle brand. Started about a year ago. In just a few short months, we have grown from our initial digital publishing startup into this broader media network. So we do target this underrepresented sort of audience that we all see consuming cannabis as part of their lifestyle. You know, not knowing the specifics on the demographic that we're speaking to here today, but we're going to assume that everyone has certainly that understanding of the size and impact of this growing industry and what we see as true cannabis culture. So the move from Canada to the West Coast, California, a couple of years ago, we'll give you a little bit about that, really opened our eyes to the industry and really helped us connect the dots on our backgrounds of marketing, digital communications, and seeing the cannabis industry. So we started Civilized and launched into this media property really to change that culture and elevate that culture and wrap our arms around the biggest demographic of cannabis consumers in North America. So our first platform is Civilized.life. It is a digital publishing platform. It is a combination of aggregated, curated, original content that you'll see, written stories, articles, video, covering all kinds of categories from business, technology, food, politics. A little bit about us, and I'm hoping Mitch can join and have the audio access because the three of us have spent quite a bit of time over the last few months meeting with a number of different investors and contributing together as we present this. But I'll continue to speak to this. So Derek and I have been business partners for almost 20 years. We are from the East Coast of Canada. Our roots are in marketing, advertising, brand strategy, and social media and digital. We have a full-service advertising agency on the East Coast of Canada, boutique agency of around 20 people. We also have a television production company. That's what brought us to California originally. And now we have Civilized. We are absolutely delighted to say that we do have Mitch Fox, who is on our board and is an investor. So as he would tell this, he, being part of the advisory board at Viridian, had been asked to view a number of different media properties. I believe Scott would say they were looking into this category and were interested in perhaps securing a client in this area. So Mitch reviewed a number of different potential clients, and we ended up meeting with Mitch and the folks at Viridian last December. And I know that Scott asked Mitch to really do a deep dive and do the diligence on our business plan and our strategy, our experience. He really, he was not easy on us, I have to admit. It was a very long afternoon, and Mitch really raked us over the coals, and it's tough to be kind of saying this ourselves, but his words are that he was impressed with what he saw. When we've met with other investors, he will jokingly say that we are not junior chipmunks, and we are not. We're both in our 40s with over 20 years experience starting, growing, and profiting from businesses, hiring teams, delivering work through an exceptional team of talent that we bring to our companies. And all of that was apparent in our strategy with Civilized. So it wasn't long after that we did arrange to work with Viridian to be our investment banking partner and to be here pitching for this round of investment. Mitch has spent a great deal of time in our office. We are headquartered in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada, where around 14 members of our team are based. We also have our satellite office in Venice, where we are growing, certainly on the content creation and leadership around some other business streams within our media group. Mitch has spent a few weeks over the last couple of months in our office here.
Hey.
There!
Hey, there's Mitch.
All right. Well, we cracked the code. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry I had a little technical glitch here. So I guess what had happened was, as Terry suggested, Viridian has seen quite a few media companies, and I initially liked the look of Civilized. I thought that it was extremely well edited, really thoughtful, very intelligent, and of course very beautiful. So I knew that it could attract a high-quality audience, and it was quite a departure from so many of the other stoner sites that had come to us and also that we were seeing in the marketplace. I had a chance to meet with Terry and Derek. I guess it was back around shortly after the first of the year, 2016. And of course, you can see by their photos, I hope you don't mind my saying this, but these aren't junior chipmunks. I mean, these are experienced, mature, and very smart executives. And they already have run a very successful business. They were successful entrepreneurs on their own right. And it came across immediately in them walking me through the business. So I drafted up a review of all of this for Viridian, and later on, I think as Terry suggested, in order to really see them close up, I took a trip to Los Angeles so that I could sit in their offices and really watch them work in their offices with vendors, with staff, and especially in their efforts to recruit people to the company. And at that time, I was extremely impressed. I mean, I loved the way that they comported themselves with third-party vendors. I negotiated with them fairly, but tough. And I especially like the way they handle their staff. And probably now, as you can see, if you look down the roster of people employed, you can see that they are extremely skilled at really doing what I consider the most important thing for a media company to be successful, and that is bringing really top talent to the company. And I don't mean people with no experience. I mean people who could work anywhere. And if they can recruit them to Civilized, as they have already proven that they can, I had enough confidence in this business to personally invest in it myself.
That's great. Thank you, Mitch.
You're welcome.
I'll continue on here, and as far as going through some of these slides, some of it is just the narrative and the history that you cover a lot of ground. This is just really showing the businesses that we've already built and we run. We want to make it clear that Civilized is our 120% focus. We work on it exclusively. We have leadership that we have brought around our other businesses that certainly run the day-to-day. Revolution is our boutique agency in New Brunswick, Canada. We'll touch on that a little bit later because that's actually been a huge competitive advantage for us in this space. It's allowed us to lean on some really smart strategic marketers, social media experts, even public relations resources that a startup of our size could otherwise never be able to support. And so we've been able to lean on our agency for all of those support services to really help us grow. Talents of Venice is our television production company. We decided, the way that story goes is, well, in the interest of time, we don't have a whole lot of time with it. Needless to say, we pitched and sold a 30-minute design show, aired across Canada. It's now selling. It's on the Oprah Winfrey Network, and it's sold in a number of countries internationally and a number of airlines. So, the whole idea of building something once and selling it many times.
Well, and that's what it was, really. It was the result of a deliberate strategy at Revolution, which is a service-based company based and a regional player in the agency business in Canada. But in order to service businesses and particularly ad agencies are really, really difficult to scale. So instead of trying to scale within Revolution, we decided to use it as our rocket launcher to incubate creative ideas that instead of building once and selling once, we could build once and sell many times. So it was a result of that purposeful strategy as a Civilized.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, Carrie Ann, let's talk a little bit about how we've been doing so far. So, like many things, our presentation right now gets us up to about near the end of July in terms of our stats and our results today. Here's what I'd want to share with you as investors. We've seen great traction since we launched into this space. We launched just about a year ago, September 22nd. And to put this in perspective, it took us around 6 months to get to the million unique page views cumulatively. Our acceleration rate has increased substantially with the addition of extra content creators, a really smart audience development strategy that we've been deploying and diversifying our outreach and our audience growth. It took around 47 days to get to the next million and 35 days to hit the next, and we continue to accelerate the pace at which our audience is growing. We are right now with just a week or so to our 1-year anniversary, we have just around 7.6 million unique page views year to date. And the other number that we're really proud of is that we know we are capturing the right demo of our target, this idea of the 25 to 50, 55-year-old, predominantly male, but about 35% of our audience is female. But these are smart, successful, ambitious entrepreneurs and professionals who own their own homes and have children. We know, based on the data that we can collect, the power and magic of digital, we know we're targeting the right demo and we are securing them. And we are getting over a 34% return visitor rate, which is incredibly attractive to advertisers who want to know that their brands are being viewed over and over again. So that's what this slide shows. So why digital media for us? Digital media is something that we knew. We know marketing, brand, we know digital and social spaces. And when I think like many people getting into this industry, when we decided to really dive in and understand the opportunities, the demographics, the experience that we bring over 20 years, much like Derek's story about our television production company, we wanted to make sure that our entry point made sense on the skills that we felt we could bring. And so we chose to go in under an initial platform of digital publishing because we felt we could check many of those boxes, and frankly, the areas that we didn't have 20 or 30 years experience, we felt we could retain, as we have with the power of Mitch Fox. And we as soon as I was at a conference and saw Scott talk about his board and some of the members of his board, and Mitch is the former publisher of Vanity Fair and group president Condé Nast division, it wasn't long before we were courting Viridian because we wanted that experienced publisher on our board, and we wanted him as an investor. We wanted to narrow that gap. So we're delighted that we were able to do that. So digital media was a natural for us because we knew we could come into this sector, and a scan of the competition in that space, again, led us to believe that no one was introducing a brand that was wrapping their arms around this demographic, which we know, based on our research, is actually the biggest piece of this demo. So in terms of media spends, and you think of, okay, so from an advertiser's perspective, how are things advancing? You can see the charts here. In a nutshell, all this is telling us is that digital is overtaking television at an exponential rate. In 2017, it's due to be the highest media ad spend. It will shift digital as opposed to TV. Others are kind of holding, but you'll see by 2020, the expectation is that digital media ad spend will certainly outpace the spend on television. Again, for us, when we think about why we're doing this and how we're building this brand in this, not just digital publishing, but the broader media group space, this is about building our audience, our community, our following in a sufficient size so that it will be attractive from an acquisition or from a significant investment perspective. Here we wanted to show that there was so much M&A activity occurring in this space from early on, when you look at Hello Giggles or Mike or Mashable or some of these others through acquisitions, you'll see that there is a lot of sort of money that old media, if you will, the manner in which they are staying relevant is through acquisition. So Mitch, I don't know if there's anything here that you would like to add. Do you generally have some comments here?
The only thing I would add here is that, as you point out, this is an opportunity for, I would say, established and traditional media companies to really get into the digital media business in a meaningful way. But you also see a lot of names here that have started off as relatively small businesses that grew over time much more slowly than Civilized is growing. And if we look back in history and look at how, whether it be BuzzFeed or The Onion or any of those properties grew, you'll see that they took 4 or 5 years really to reach their stride. So it's kind of exciting that the company is growing so quickly, and I do think it all goes back to product, or in our case, content. We have really, really very high quality content.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. So next, and again, I'm going to assume that the sort of baseline understanding of the size and power and impact of this changing climate in the cannabis industry is very well understood by our audience here. So, you know, the size from a you know, almost touch the plant perspective to ancillary products, the expected growth in the billions, and just that tipping point of 26 states now with some degree of legalization and what that is expected to continue to look like. What's interesting for us is that we don't touch the plant. We are actually a media company that's in the cannabis space as opposed to a cannabis business. So we have the advantage of not having so many restrictions. Now, there are still some challenges from an advertising perspective, and we have very smart teams who are working with us, and we have sort of cracked the code, if you will, on things like how we can best use Facebook advertising, other digital advertising, and leaning on our agency again to come up with really unique tailored ad product for our brands, both cannabis and non-cannabis brands, to be able to advertise and promote their businesses, their brands, their products across all of our platforms. So a huge advantage as compared to maybe some others in the cannabis space.
Right, which makes it a safe place for advertisers, makes it a safe place for example, Facebook and social media networks to allow our content, and quite frankly, it's a safer place for investors who may be just testing the waters in the cannabis space. You're not subject to regulations, restrictions, and legislation that governs people that touch the plant. We are simply reporting on it.
So when it comes to, we talk about the branding opportunity and the fact that when you think about what we're doing, this is more about a lifestyle brand. And when you think about Civilized, much like if you think about traditional industries like food categories, tobacco, alcohol, it's this idea of brands who will, they will want to align with those that they sort of align with their kind of shared values, and people will go back to that product that aligns with sort of how they identify themselves. So people have their favorites and they will have their go-to. The same is happening in the cannabis industry as brands are being established. So again, this is just an evolution of how we envision targeting certain clients who will become advertisers at Civilized.
Certainly, and we're certainly trying to present Civilized in a very, well, civilized way. We consider ourselves cannabis for grown-ups. The choice of our aesthetic and language is very, very purposeful, and it's based on our experience in the branding and marketing business. You don't see any green. You don't see any leaf. We are really trying to elevate the conversation around cannabis by changing the words, language, and imagery that is used around it. And that's all done because, one, we believe that it is the right thing to do to elevate this culture, but two, to make it safe for both cannabis and especially non-cannabis brands to cross the bridge and reach out to this community. Mm-hmm. You can imagine the community that exists in let's say, in the alcohol business or in the cigar business. These are markets and communities that mainstream advertisers like Land Rover, Tag Heuer, Rolex will all try to access without any worry about ancillary negative comments or legality. And that's where cannabis is going, and that's where we're helping to take it.
Absolutely. And when we look at that last bullet, there are a number of cannabis brands that are really finding it difficult to find the right sort of inventory of ad product in places because of the number of restrictions that they have. I mean, again, municipality, jurisdiction, there are such strict rules on how and where you can promote your brand. I mean, we all know whether it's billboards or outdoor, things too close to schools or rec centers, or there are so many limitations, but there are a number of quality marketers within the cannabis space who are spending right now almost $100 million on digital ads. And while that is one component of our monetization acquisition strategy, which we'll get into in a bit. It certainly isn't the lion's share of how we will be generating revenue at Civilized, but there are definitely opportunities for sort of that low-hanging fruit to provide that safe platform where there is little to no reputational risk because of what Civilized represents. And Mitch, feel free to jump in anytime. I know it's tough when we're not in the same room, but please do feel free,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, you know, I feel very strongly about this point of view about the quality and kind of advertising that can appear. And one of the things, and again, I'm coming at this from a somewhat different point of view, one of the things that really attracted me to this business, and I was impressed with when I first met these folks in the Verdian conference room, was the fact that it was a beautiful environment. So mainstream brands could feel confident if this were a category in which they wanted to enter, this would be the first and safest environment within which they can come. And the most profitable kind of advertising is native advertising or integrated advertising. And by having a marketing agency already pre-established and operating successfully, it gives us this competitive advantage when talking to marketers so that they have the confidence to know that if we work together on native advertising, it'll not only appear on this site that they have confidence in, but the work will also be done at the highest possible level. Right now, and you guys can correct me, but I think when you look at the site, when you see Adidas or Timberland or Reebok, now granted, these are progressive brands, but when you see those brands advertising on this site alone in the entire sector, it immediately tells you that Civilized has already begun to accomplish the most difficult thing that they set out to do, and that is to secure marketing support from mainstream brands. And I think these three are just the beginning of many to come.
Absolutely, Mitch, and it's certainly a point of pride for us when we click in, we see brands like Adidas and Timberland there. So, you know, we talk about elevating cannabis culture. We talk about the fact that there are millions of motivated, productive people who choose to consume cannabis. You know, it was our theory at the outset that there was more civilized in the civilized nation than there was in the sort of stoner slacker nation. But we have done both third party, and we've commissioned our own research with Embryonics Analytics. We have we've got some really great data that shows that the majority of the people that are consuming cannabis are older. They are most likely married. Majority have children. They are very well educated. They own their own homes, and they're earning $75,000 a year and a household income of $150,000. So, you know, this is not a subculture. The subculture is really the stoner slacker culture. It is just the one that has received the lion's share of the media's attention for the last 40 or 50 years. Well, the true cannabis consumer has been in his garage, in his basement, or his or her garage or basement, or patio, or backyard. They're now coming out of that cannabis closet, and we're the ones helping them open that door and making it normalized.
And I think this is not surprising to anyone. This is what everyone has seen, and I think why we have so many ears on this this call today. So look, to sum it up, this is where Civilized lives. You look at many others who are in that kind of digital publishing or website-based space in the industry, and then you see mainstream digital publishing media groups and how Civilized kind of lives at that intersection of those two. So moving along, competitive analysis, there are definitely competitors we keep our eyes on. The reality is when you talk about competition in this industry, in this space, you can really only kind of track how you are advancing and progressing and growing against yourself. Many of these others in the space have launched, you know, at different times or resourced a bit differently, but it's all about traction. So we do certainly keep an eye on the numbers in this space, and we are again really pleased that our early kind of gut feel coupled with 20 years experience and diving into this space, it has been validated that we have targeted the right audience with the right content, with the right frequency, and our strategy for growth is resulting in numbers. We like to say we separated ourselves from the herd. And, again, these numbers as we prepared it back in June, July, our Facebook fan base now is over 76,000, continues to grow. And we like to say all of our implementation strategies are rooted in smart data. We have evidence-based metrics. That's how we grow. We, of course, test a number of different ways to grow our audience. We are quick to abandon those that are not generating the results we like to see, but it's all about a diversified strategy, and we're really delighted to see how we're tracking so far. So the broader media group, let me frame this up for you, because we talk about Civilized.life often because it's that flagship. It's the sort of introductory platform, if you will, just about a year old. That is where you will see our current slate of content, predominantly sort of story-based and video-based content across we talked about earlier, whether it is business, tech, health, fitness, policy, all of those different categories that, again, our data has told us that that is what our consumers want to hear and why they keep returning. When you look at our broader media group, there are other entities within the space who, frankly, are getting maybe 100 or 150,000 unique visitors per month. They're never sort of going to get their size of audience to a place where it would be of interest to an advertiser, but we are looking at ways of kind of wrapping our arms around them and bringing them into the Civilized family so that our 1 million, 1.5 million, 2 million uniques can be augmented by another 500, 700, 800,000 unique eyeballs, and we would, in partnership, do some sort of revenue split. So that's part of our strategy too, because there are some fantastic niche sites out there, and we would love to bring them in and be able to benefit from the infrastructure that we have been able to build so far. Civilized Studios. We've got two fantastic leads based here in Los Angeles who are building out a slate of video content. And this, we know, will be another competitive advantage. We are building this out to complement how we are delivering our overall content, that storytelling aspect. This is what advertisers, Mitch talked about native advertising. And the slate of ad product, the world of advertising, we saw how sort of traditional TV advertising, commercial-based advertising is on the decline. But what is significantly on the upswing is the idea of branded entertainment and branded content. And that can be everything from product placement, but it literally is sponsored by or embedded brands. Or, for example, we have on our slate a cooking show where of the series, that the chef actually will cook using edibles that have all kinds of different elements infused. So when you think about the slate of advertisers who would want their brands to be used in the cooking show, plus other types of sponsorship packages that we can put together both within cannabis and non-cannabis. For example, the chef who happens to be cast in our show, part of it is that she actually will rent places from Airbnb and use beautiful, beautiful kitchens that where she is cooking. So there are just so many layers of ways that you can infuse the branded entertainment, branded content, sponsored content, and that's our studio model. Within the studio, we've got a slate with the travel show. There's our baked show, food and entertainment. So we're building out our slate right now. We're ready to launch very soon. And then the last is Civilized Events. And again, this is our opportunity to really create those experiences at a grassroots level where we can go into those communities, and again, in those categories of food, music, travel, those experiences that we can create so that we can get sponsorship. There are different ways that we can roll that out, and we've got some great leadership over our event and experience category of our business line. So you can see that from an advertiser's perspective, to have this array of platforms through which we can help them promote their brands, their products, and market them, it's really not about digital display advertising on a website. It is far more broad, diverse, tailored, flexible, and we have an entire agency in Canada that helps us back this up with our television experience and our agency experience. We can deliver that tailored product that others in the space are not able to deliver.
And as Mitch likes to say, and I hope he'll back me up on this, you know, if you were building the Condé Nast of today, if you were building from the ground up the modern media company of this millennia, this would be the model.
I will absolutely back you up. In fact, one of the things I really continue to find very exciting about Civilized is that with a blank slate, you've been able to build a modern media company, the quintessential modern media company, taking advantage of all of the positive aspects that technology permits you to, while still retaining the highest level of professionalism to produce the content.
I love when you say that stuff.
So continuing through, I know we could go on all day about some of these things. This gives a little more of a breakdown of each of those different business units as I've just described. When we talk about our revenue model, again, further to that advantage of having an agency where we can mix digital and non-traditional advertising, that suite of product that can be tailor-made. Many of you are likely familiar with ad blockers. I mean, that's the other reason that those who have entered into the space and who are focusing on, frankly, the only product they're able to deliver, or one of the products, and the one on which they're banking most of their revenue around even digital display or social media pushing, ad blockers are growing tremendously. People do not want to have in their stream videos loading, sucking up all their data, incurring big charges. They are definitely downloading ad blocker apps so that you're just not going to see those. As advertisers, we need to find creative ways, and we have 15 years experience running a digital shop knowing how to do that. So another advantage for our media group. So let's talk about revenue for a bit. This is the one certainly investors always like us to spend a bit of time on. But we have built a monetization strategy that right now, as Mitch said, when you look at our site, the ad product, we're very, very deliberate in not starting day one with a host of advertising product, because the counsel we sought from many in this industry, and we have great friends who have worked at Huffington Post and BuzzFeed in senior roles, brand strategy, working in the revenue of those businesses, and they have validated this is about establishing your brand, growing your audience, getting it to a compelling enough size, and then introducing ad product after you hit certain milestones. We have monetized our site earlier than expected through some initial introductions of digital display advertising, the native advertising, sponsored stories, some e-commerce, merchandise. We have had Mantis ads on our site initially, mainly as a proof point that we could accommodate the suite of Mantis advertising. We've now replaced that with ad campaigns that we are building ourselves. And when Mitch talked about Adidas and some other mainstream brands that you see on our site, we've partnered through an affiliate program where those ads appear on our site, and those brands do have to approve where their ads go. So again, reputational risk, it's just not there with Civilized. So this is the early slate of some revenue streams. As I said, we are just a year, and we are launching our studio now. We are launching our events and experiences as well. We have our strategy crafted. Our team has been recruiting. They've been building our slate, and so our total suite of other sponsored stories, branded content, branded entertainment, how all of that fits together is literally rolling out over the next 3, 4, 5 months, and you'll see that in our projections as our revenue continues to grow. So the strategy and Mantis ads we talked about, our affiliate program, the sponsored stories are going very, very well. So we are in the development studio in our media group, but again, we've seen better than expected traction on our early monetization strategy. So we feel really great that we're putting the right team together to continue to grow our ad product categories and our revenue. Here's our growth strategy over the next 12 months. We are literally focusing on 4 key areas. The first I talked about as being data-driven, research-driven, evidence-based. We commissioned that early polling, that early research to help us validate our market, the size of our segment, and making sure that we were targeting the right demo. And it was, you know, money well spent. It's been fantastic. We need to commission research to make sure that we have smart intel to help us validate and advance our audience development, our monetization, and our brand activation strategies. Those are the three categories. That's where we are investing in terms of hiring resources under audience development. More folks, more video editors, writers, social media contributors. We need to build out our audience development. Monetization, we need to build up our sales team. We've had great leadership at a strategic level, and introducing that early product mix, we need to absolutely add to our sales team and continue to grow. And brand activation, and that is all about activating the Civilized brand. It's through sponsorships. We've hired a PR firm here in LA who's been fantastic at getting us opportunities to sponsor events and speak at events and really help us elevate our brand. In terms of our financial forecast, you'll see that our fiscal year runs September to August. Across each of our different business units, you'll see our revenue targets in each of those fiscals. We absolutely expect to see, that growth in revenue over those years. I'm happy. This is always a tough one to kind of summarize. I'm happy, I'm sure, as we end this, to answer any questions and set up any calls or meetings with anyone who's interested in really diving and getting under the hood with our forecast. Some advertising prospects. We have proposals out, or we've had conversations. We have interest from a number of brands in the space that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. That list continues to grow. We've got a great target list, and we continue to work those relationships to secure revenue. As far as our revenue assumptions, the why and how, here's what we've learned in speaking with folks who have built out monetization at the big mainstream digital publishers and media groups, the BuzzFeeds and HuffPosts and Vice. Much like an agency model, your revenue is a multiplier of your sales team. And so when you look at BuzzFeed's numbers and you see the cost of their ads and sales salary, you'll see the multiplier effect. You'll see that for us, because year one for us is about we need that runway of building our team and getting them in and then starting to convert those sales, which is why our first year multiplier looks quite a bit lower. But you'll see that exponential growth as we get up into the 3.6, kind of ratio for the cost of delivering on those sales and then the actual top line revenue. So our studio assumptions, again, I know it's a lot of information. It certainly kind of goes against best practice for a slide presentation, but I know that many of you will be able to have this and you can read through it. But with our studio, it is much like the publishing strategy. It is about aggregating and curating relevant content that exists now, working collaboratively to bring in that talent, much like the media group, where there are folks who are delivering a certain number of eyeballs, but maybe not enough to attract advertisers. There are ways that we can bring in folks who are already, have maybe 50,000 or 75,000 subscribers on their YouTube channel, and we like their content. It's a niche area that's really complementary. Again, through partnerships, we can bring them into the Civilized family, and then our original content, the slate of shows that we are developing, and it's all about generating revenue through those channels. Just to explain that original content strategy in a little more detail. Here's the detailed breakdown. Again, just in the interest of time and complexity, by all means, happy to have a separate conversation for people who'd like more information on this. This is the breakdown of the summary for our fiscal years 17, 18, and 19 that show across each of our different divisions our expected revenue and the expected growth in our audience that correlates with that growth in revenue. Here's our current organization at Civilized. We are not four guys in the basement somewhere cranking out content. We do have our main audience development. We've got our studio. We have our content creators. We are building this out. This is kind of who we are now, with most of our team based in Canada. And I'll tell you why on this slide. We are Canadian. We have our agency in Canada, and what might be surprising to many is that how we have raised money to date. We have raised just over $1.3 million in angel funding in 2015. We were also able to secure provincial and federal government funding in the form of payroll rebates for positions we were creating in our home province of New Brunswick. And our federal government agency, the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, has funded 75% of significant investments in key leaders based in St. John, as well as marketing, export marketing planning. So, well over $400,000 in funding from our provincial and federal governments. Use of proceeds, we are raising $3 million at a $12 million pre-money valuation is what this round is looking to raise. Our use of funds will be to really blow out our audience development. We need to make sure that we have our team that we're building under audience development. We have secured a AP marketing audience growth, and we need to build out the team with it. Content creators, video editors, social media, data analysts. Mitch said it earlier, and he couldn't be more right. Content is king. We need to build out our monetization strategy with our sales team, and we need to fund our brand activation activities. This is how we plan to break that down. And that is our presentation. This is the contact information for Derek and for me, and we would love to hear from anyone who's interested in learning more about an opportunity to invest in Civilized.
We're certainly very excited about what we're doing here. We think the opportunities are pretty substantial. And for us, as we discussed in the presentation, the magic is that we're not touching the cannabis plant. We're not touching the industry directly. We're just merely commenting on it. But by nature of the fact that we're covering it, we do consider ourselves very deeply rooted in the cannabis industry. But it's that intersection of cannabis, the fastest growing industry in North America, and digital publishing, which is in the top 5, which we think is pretty hard to beat. So we certainly appreciate everybody's time. Derwin, you're to be commended for putting this together, and Scott and the team at Viridian, we can't thank you guys enough for making the introduction. And as Terri said, if anybody wants to follow up, we would love to speak to them directly once the Q&A session is concluded.
Well, thank you, Terri and Derek and Mitch. If you could, Terri and Derek, go back to your presentation, the first 1 or 2 slides.
Yeah, go.
The first 1 or 2 slides, the one that talks about you producing a very successful show.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. I think you guys are very modest because you brushed over this slide, and I caught it as you were going through your slides. So you're saying that yourself and Terri actually conceived, pitched, and sold and produced one of the most successful reality TV shows in America?
Not quite, but we stole the name. No, we're not the Real Housewives series.
Okay, that's yeah.
No, that's good, and I'm glad we got that clear. Or perhaps I'm not glad if people actually thought we had achieved that. No, Real Houses Of is an absolutely beautiful and a much less frenetic show. It's a 30-minute design show that was based on visiting wonderful homes, custom built by people who infused their by wonderful people who infused their own personality into them all around North America. So we sold that to the W Network. It runs on the Oprah Winfrey Network, and thanks. We were being humble, not that humble, but if I may say, the crew that actually delivered the show, the shooters, the producers, the directors, the editors, were second to none, and the product that we actually collectively, but based on on their blood, sweat, and tears, was exceptional. It's something that we are very, very proud of.
Okay. Yeah, I caught that slide as you guys were going to the next slide, so thanks for clearing that up.
I also directed E.T. and Titanic.
Well, our first question is, what do you think non-cannabis mainstream brands will, what do you think when do you think non-cannabis mainstream brands will advertise with Civilized?
Well, it's already begun through our affiliate model with Pepper Jam. Adidas is there with us. And, oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't supposed to answer that question. That's a Mitch. Oh, there already are non-cannabis brands in Adidas and Timberland that are there on the site. Mitch, did you want to actually answer the question as it was supposed to be scripted? My apologies.
Well, the only thing I can add is that non-cannabis mainstream advertising will almost parallel directly the growth of the business. And as this most important panel, in my opinion, was the monetization panel, because a media company cannot be successful without multiple revenue streams. Now, multiple revenue streams benefit the media company, but more importantly, it benefits the marketer who has numerous touch points with this important and growing audience. And marketers are already watching this sector, much like they watched other unique vertical sectors develop. And consequently, they are seeking safe places for their brands to be represented. And as Derek suggested, with Adidas and Timberland and Reebok already sort of breaking through, you're going to see other progressive brands begin to break through. And the advantage of being a media company in this sector is that there are no restrictions legally on the distribution of our product, the media property, nationally. So marketers have the confidence that they're advertising and reaching a national audience. I think if we were here today and telling you we're only going to have Civilized exist in those states where cannabis is legal, marketers would not be particularly interested. It would be too small. But we are a national business, we are a growing business, and we're a very safe environment for mainstream brands.
Now, when you guys make that first call to a company outside of the cannabis space regarding advertising, are they pretty standoffish at first? Do you guys have to go into detail about the industry and the market? Are they very hesitant right off when you guys start talking to them?
Well, Derwin, I can only say this with the utmost respect for the marketing industry, and that is, if there's any industry in America second to the entertainment industry that understands the enthusiasm for cannabis, it would be the marketing industry. And not only as, these are people whose exclusive job is to go and find new markets, to reach a new audience in a new way, to sell their products. And what we bring them is a very high quality audience in a very high quality environment to do exactly that. So while many of them say that they are not yet ready, and they will put this, they'll sidebar this effort, you already see that the entertainment industry has embraced it and will be driving higher interest in this sector as more and more entertainment products. There's High Maintenance from HBO. There's a half a dozen or more television shows, movies, all themed around cannabis coming out, and that's going to demand marketers follow suit like they always have.
All right, the next question, what is your strategy for building out the Civilized Studios segment?
I'll take that one. So we're, a couple of things. So the first is that the learnings that we have from our experience in the digital publishing side, much of that is relevant. It's a matter of identifying those, the talent in the space that we can, through aggregation and curation of their content, we can bring that again into the Civilized family. There are lots of opportunities for collaboration. Again, it's sponsorships. It's our PR firm is already sourcing lots of different opportunities that we're able to collaborate with influencers and A-list talent and in that space that's happening. And then it is about developing our own slate of original content. Because much like what we did with Talons of Venice, with the Real Houses program, creating your own slate, owning that IP, and being able to have it funded through brands and sponsored entertainment, even broadcast network, that slate of original content that you can then sell again and again and again, that's where you see that multiplier effect when it comes to our revenue.
Okay, next question. And you guys touched on this a little bit with Mitch. What role does Mitchell Fox play at Civilized?
Well, you know, Mitch, I'm going to field this one. And I'm not going to be, you know, this is not going to be humble. Mitch hates when I do this, and I'm honestly not just saying that. Mitch is a real pride point for us, everybody. You know, very personally, going back to in the 90s when I started reading Details magazine and actually fell in love with it, and it was the voice of my early 20s at that point. When we learned about Mitch and his interest in the cannabis industry, you know, we really kind of we wanted to have him on this board. I mean, he was the past publisher of Vanity Fair and Details. He's a former group president of Condé Nast. He was a publisher of the year in 1997, and he was the president and CEO of the Golf Digest companies. I mean, you just can't imagine anybody with a better pedigree, particularly given that he parlayed that into his own startup media company in San Francisco, and all of the other things that he has done. So, Mitch, look, Terri and I are very good entrepreneurs. Mitch is is an unbelievably talented and seasoned media executive. So, as much as we can chart courses ourselves, Mitch makes us smarter at it and really refines the roadmaps and helps us chart out those roadmaps, because Mitch has lived it, and Mitch has been you know, at the very top echelon of the media business in the United States. So he's doing everything with us, from helping us with monetization. He is opening doors for us. He is getting us connected. He was behind the Civilized Media Group, and he's just out there always kicking over other opportunities for us. And you know, we just really find his help invaluable. And you know, that comes down to Mitch actually will come to the office and spend time with us and pick up the phone. I would say that it would be an understatement for me to say that Mitch would be an active board member. So,
yeah, I mean, I would only, you know, that's embarrassingly flattering. Thank you, Derek. But I'll tell you, the thing that attracts me to this, get involved in this business, and I am involved in other business enterprises, is the fact that these guys want to build a company for the future. They want to build something that has long-term, sustainable value for investors and for employees in the company itself. And as Derek said, I'm not much for sitting in the office. I love to meet people. I love to sit across the table from them. And that's really just been the way I've always conducted business, and I encourage everybody around me to do the same. So I hope to be able to help the folks at Civilized be able to continue to do that. And whenever I can get out to Los Angeles, I do so, and they're kind enough to give me a desk to work at, and I just roll up my sleeves and do whatever it is that they think is needed.
This one question has already been answered. I think Terri answered, how has the company been funded to this date? I think she had went over a slide regarding previous funding.
Mm-hmm.
The next question is, and the last question, how does Civilized plan to monetize its traffic?
Yeah, I'll take that. So again, I think monetizing our traffic, it's interesting, you know, traffic, when you think about what that really means. I mean, look, we want to make sure that we have a growing, safe place for mainstream brands. That's ultimately what we're building here, and through quality content, that is smart, data-driven, which we've demonstrated in our careers as agency professionals in the digital space. We know we can do that. I think leveraging our agency to be able to build tailor-made product across all of our platforms for brands, so that we are not, only one option. In our agency business, we like to say, when you're a hammer, everything is a nail, right? And for us, that's not the case. We can talk to brands both in the cannabis and non-cannabis space, and we can say to them, how can we best help you solve this problem? What is the challenge, and what audience, and how do you want to be? Is it sponsoring a food festival that we're going to have, or a music festival? Is it some branded content or branded entertainment? Is there some component in our slate that we could offer to them? Is it something to do with a digital display? Is it product profile? Is it social media strategy pushing? There are so many ways that we can create an ad product mix that works for our clients. So it really is this marriage of everything we've done over our 20-year careers of agency, marketing, digital, television production, and now in the media space.
Well, that concludes our Q&A. Any last comments about Civilized?
Look, we appreciate everybody's time, and we are in the middle of a round, and we are looking forward to hearing from anybody who even has a cursory interest in us. And I will say, if you haven't already, please point your phone or your computer to www.civilized.life. Sign up for our email digest. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and get used to us. Get accustomed to us. It's not the last you're going to be seeing of us. We expect to be a pretty big success and have a pretty big voice in this industry. It's developing very, very nicely now. And again, thank you everybody for your time.
If you guys could go back to that last slide with your email address. If any of the audience members have any questions, there's Derek and Terry's email there. And also Civilized is sub-featured in the September-October magazine issue of Cannabis Investor magazine. That issue will be distributed tomorrow. So go to our website and sign up for the free subscription. The website is cannainvestormag.com, C-A-N-N-A investormag.com. We really appreciate your presentation, Derek, Terry, and Mitch. Looking forward to getting the update maybe in the new part of next year. So thank you.
Hear, hear.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Derwin.
Thank you, Derwin.